You Can Run But You Cannot Hide International is an organization that has done 331 high school assembly programs in 22 different states. Bradley Dean, the founder and overseer of You Can Run But You Cannot Hide International, along with his team, a group comprised of young people from various walks of life, joined together to reach out to the youth of America in a way like no one has done before. They dared to believe God and take Him at His word, giving this generation a message of truth and hope. For over a decade, this team has stopped at nothing. They endured hardships, trials, breakdowns, persecutions, all-night drives, harassment, and much, much more to show unto this generation the strength of Jesus Christ. This is their story, and they're coming to a city near you. It all began back in 1966 with the birth of Bradley Dean. Bradley grew up in a broken home. His dad was in prison for reasons Bradley didn't even know, and his mother was always working or with her boyfriends. He and his brother Brian were left to weather the obstacles of life with little to no guidance and try to figure out things on their own. Growing up was tough, and Bradley had to move a total of 37 times before landing his first house much later in his adult life. He always felt insecure with no father figure or stability in his own life.
What I remember is I remember being a kid with me and my brother. I was 3, Brian was 5. That's when I began to comprehend everything in life. I remember that my mom used to lay a lot of stuff on me and my brother, and what we learned real quick is if we wanted anything in life, we were going to have to fight for it, we were going to have to struggle for it, and we were going to have to go to the top the way that we understood how to do that, and that's through the fight and through the struggle, and you're not going to produce fruit any other way. Life is uphill, it's not downhill. But when I look back, I can see that the Lord was there from day one.
School was a place he hated. Once he got settled and used to having new friends, it was time to move again. Eventually, Bradley began to mix with the wrong crowd and started to make bad choices in his own life. When he got older, he became a part of the rock scene. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll became a way of life. And yet with all this, Bradley was still empty.
Didn't matter where I was or who I was with, and I could have a crowd of people around me, all supposed friends, and it didn't matter. I still felt empty because I knew I was in sin.
The choices that he made almost cost him his own life. But throughout all of this, the Lord kept trying to get Bradley's attention.
This woman walked up to me and she had said to me, I just wanted to tell you I see a dark countenance and a white countenance. And then after she had said that to me, I didn't really get what she was saying, but I knew for some reason what she was saying was right. And so she was prophetically speaking into my life. And I knew at that point I was coming to the line where I had to make a decision. Either it's going to be the Lord's way or I'm not going to make it.
Eventually, Bradley had enough of what the world had to offer and began to cry out to God on his own.
And I remember I started asking the Lord to show Himself to me. And I remember I would go into the room at night, and while everybody was partying and doing their thing, I would be under the covers crying out to God saying, Lord, where are you at? I need you to answer me.
So how did the Lord answer Bradley?
It was the second set, and I walked behind the stage, and I was with my girlfriend, and I just basically said to her, it's like the Lord's got a rope around me and He's pulling me out of here. And I didn't have a choice at that point anymore because I knew it was more than just, these were answers from God directly, and there was no questioning as to what was going on there. I could literally physically feel me being pulled out of where I was. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
The Lord began to separate Bradley. That night began a 10-month breaking period in which he was all alone, but never without Christ.
After I quit the band, all of a sudden it was just like everybody shut everybody off around me. No more friends, no more partying. And I was just upstairs, and the only time that I felt right was when I was in the Word of God. And then I started to cry out in prayer. But what was going on is I was being broken every day of my life, so He was granting me sanctification and repentance.
Eventually, it came to a point where
it was at the end of that breaking period, and I tried it a couple times prior to that, where I would literally get down on the floor. I was so mad and angry because I knew that God was. I never questioned if God was really there. I just didn't know how to get to Him, and I was struggling and I was fighting. And I remember I got down on the rug one day and I started hitting the floor saying, God, if you're there, answer me. If you don't answer me today, I'm done. And I was just mad as could be. And I remember going to church that night. It was a Wednesday night service, and a guy walked up to me and he had a tear in his eye. And he got down and he did exactly what I just told you. And he said, "You don't think the Lord hears you?" And he said, "He hears you." And he got down on the ground and he did exactly what I did an hour prior to me getting there.
Bradley's pastor at the time called him up and told him to do a 3-day fast, and that within a week he would be in full-time ministry.
And he had called me up and he said, "I want you to take a 3-day fast." And he said, "The Lord's calling for you to take a 3-day fast. And after the 3 days," he said that the Lord's going to reveal His will to you and you'll be in full-time ministry within a week. And I don't think it was 3 days later, I went to the rock show with the Reign of Kings, and both the guitar player and the bass player came up to me and said to me, "Bradley, we need a drummer." They were very persistent. Todd, the guitar player, was very persistent in calling me and saying, "You're the guy, you're the guy, you're the guy." I said, "I'm not the guy, I don't want to be the guy." And I said, "All right, why don't we just do this? Why don't you guys come over and watch some of my videos playing in secular bands?" And that's exactly what they did. And when they all came over, we started to niche a little bit. And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try."
At the church Bradley was attending, someone told him that he should do an assembly at a school in Minnesota. That was the initial seed that began 331 high school assembly programs done on a nationwide scale. Bradley gathered together the members of his band, Junkyard Prophet, and did his first assembly program at a school near Minneapolis, Minnesota.
It was 1998 in December. I was a senior in high school. What really struck me is when Bradley got up when he was done, and it was the drummer, and I thought, wow, that's cool, the drummer's gonna say something to us. And it was like when Bradley got up and started speaking, like everything was drowned out. And it was like the Spirit of God was directly talking to me. And when you are given that truth, you know the truth and you want to follow the truth. And that's exactly what happened that day.
We played the show without any lights. It was really generic, but it rocked, and it was an awesome assembly. I got up there with these big hairy shoes on, got up and I had fun, and I was just really connecting with the kids, so it wasn't really what I could do as far as antics go. It was just an issue of connecting with them by the anointing that God was flowing through me at the time.
And I remember it was just, I mean, it was awesome because obviously it was the first seed into the ministry, but it was very, like, there was no lighting, no lighting for the light show for the music. It was just, obviously the band was playing, but there was such an anointing on it because it was the very first one.
But the band wasn't the only thing the Lord began to gather together.
And it's really interesting because before I knew it, I had 30 people in my basement almost on a daily basis praying for what we were going to be doing next. And what we didn't know was in front of us was high schools. And what we didn't know as well is that we were going to be moving into an office, doing high school assemblies across the country.
The Lord began putting together a team of people from all different states and all walks of life, but with one common purpose: to seek and save that which is lost. As Bradley began to minister, those in attendance saw something different.
It was like, wow, I had never heard somebody preach like that. What was mostly different is that it wasn't like the sugar-coated, jargon that I had heard my whole life. It was like really in your face, and it was black and white. It wasn't like, you can do some things and you can't. It was like, no, God says no. It was basically just right in your face, and something that I had never heard my whole life.
And so when I heard him talk, I saw a guy that didn't come from a background of religion or, the Bible and things like that, and I just saw somebody who was real. And you don't see that very often. People that are willing to cross lines, and people that are willing to say what needs to be said, and also people that take it seriously. Like, this really is their life. God is their life. Everybody says they love God, but where it literally is the crux of his life and what he does, and you can just see that. And you know it when he's preaching, and you know it in his lifestyle when you see it afterwards.
When I heard him speak, I was really moved by just his passion and the fact that he was so black and white, and he was willing just to say what needed to be said. He would tell it how it is. He wasn't beating around the bush. He was willing to say the things that other people weren't willing to say. And being a teenager at the time, and even, in the position I was in, I was ready for that. It's like, I want the truth, and I want to be a part of that truth that brings things forward, not a part of the, passiveness that you see a lot in our country today of people that are being diplomatic.
Eventually, a group of individuals joined together with him and officially formed You Can Run, But You Cannot Hide International.
When I was going through my breaking period, I used to sit and praise and worship to a song called Lord Send Me by a band called Truth. And I remember that when I was in a position to actually need a bus to do high school assemblies because we couldn't have all those cars going to each school, we started to pray and ask the Lord for a bus. Well, in process of buying the bus, we actually found out that it was the Truth bus that I was praising the Lord a couple years prior to. Lord, send me. The Lord did send me in their bus. So that's a fact. And that's a praise report in the sense of God was very well aware of what he was doing 2 years prior to us actually getting that bus.
So here's the bus the Lord gave us that we work for every week.
Good fundraisers.
Fundraisers. We've had to put a hand to the plow to everything that we've gotten in this ministry. It hasn't just come because we prayed. We had to put a hand to the plow and we asked our prayers.
Schools came by much prayer and hard work. And for those schools that couldn't afford the assembly program, they would raise the funds themselves, rain, snow, or shine, to get to the next kid.
The craziest day is doing a fundraiser outside of a Sam's Club, and I don't want to over-exaggerate it, but it was at least 20 below zero, and that was not with windshield. In fact, the news report was telling everyone not to go outside for the day. And here we are sitting outside in front of Sam's Club with no one coming to the store. But we stayed there and did a fundraiser that day, and obviously that helped, keep the engine moving for the ministry.
We're in Miami, Florida. See, this is like the rock style of a rock star, but the difference is we're doing it because we want to get to the kids and help the kids, and it's still something in the kids instead of taking away from them. And the whole difference between what we do and what rock stars do, a majority of them, not all of them, we do all the work. We ain't got nobody doing it for us, so we have to do it for ourselves.
We the roadies.
It's a dream come true, guys, even though that we're doing it, again, not for the money, we're doing it because we want to get to you guys, the kids. Cool?
Amen.
Bradley and the You Can Run But You Cannot Hide International team endured bad weather, bus breakdowns, obstacles, opposition, harassment, and many hardships to reach the youth. But every one of them will tell you it was worth it.
It's 5:40 about in the morning. Do you know where your children are? Yes, they're in Florida, loading up a speaker for the assembly program. And here we are as we walk into the school, getting set up. There's Heather, Bradley, Jake, there's Danny, and little D. D, baby! Dominic. D. Hi! We're loading in. It's going to be a good day, Lord willing. Morning, Stephanie.
Morning.
Good morning.
We're in Key West. I got up at like 1:05. I thought to myself, it's 1:05 and I still haven't slept yet. And they have these really awful pillows. Of course, nothing to complain about. I'm really tired. Nothing like Lunchables in the morning.
The way my life has been changed and impacted by God is it's allowed me an outlet to give what's been given to me. I do it because I want to express that which Christ has done for me in my life to others.
My main motivation is the fact of knowing that I was in the situation that a lot of the kids are in today, and that you know what it's like to be them, so you want to in turn reach out to them with where they're at. And that's really my motivation, is the fact that God was willing to reach down to me and pull me out of the circumstance I was in so that I could in turn, do that for someone else.
Bradley and his crew fought for every school.
Fasting, prayer, staying connected. When Paul said, fight the good fight of faith, it's been just that. And as Jesus rightly said, straight and narrow and difficult is the way, and that's exactly what it's been, is straight and narrow and difficult is the way.
It's called tenacity. It's called never give up. It's called believing in your product, which I completely do, especially being a fruit of it. It's called not letting a principal say no because the kids are worth it.
To me, again, our end is the next generation. I know what it's like to be that kid, and I know what it was like when Christ saved me. And when I'm saying saved, I mean where he really brought salvation to me.
And it's like if these kids don't get somebody in their face giving them the ultimate truth, it's like they're going to basically be on that road for destruction. And so when we go into the schools, it's something that I'm giving them what I wish I would have had.
So what did Bradley do? He made a documentary combining the trials and tribulations of doing 331 high school assembly programs and the message that has been brought to each one in a 5-part documentary series called My War.
The My War documentary is 12 years of ministry put into a 5-part miniseries documentary of our message, our hardships, our trials, every moral issue of the day, everything that kids are dealing with, everything that parents are dealing with, pretty much everything imaginable that you can think of, all the research that we've done, all the sweat, blood, and tears that have gone into reaching the youth of this nation, and as well as their parents, or leaders of this nation. So it's everything in a culmination of 12 years of ministry put into a 5-part miniseries.
Topics such as the constitution of our foundation versus what kids are being taught in public schools today, Hollywood and the decline of morals in our country, to the breakdown of the family, abortion, drugs, sickness versus choice, homosexuality, to the lies in the media. Bradley Dean not only exposes these lies, but brings about the truth that takes the mask off of their hidden agenda. Watch as the curtain is pulled back and the light of God's truth comes down to expose that which the immoral doesn't want you to see.
I wanted the parents and I wanted the people in America to see what's going on in public schools. They need to understand how anti-American things are becoming, how in public schools they're digressing, they're taking on everything that's new and they're throwing off everything that's old. They're throwing off our foundations, they're throwing off who we are, they're rewriting history. Instead of restraint, they're teaching kids tolerance, and tolerance means to throw off restraint or without restraint. So they're completely undoing everything that our forefathers established. And I think it's really important for people to understand what's going on in public schools, and the way to do that is bring it to television, and that's exactly what we've done.
And the response has been incredible.
That was the best documentary I've ever seen.
Absolutely fantastic.
I'm still confounded over the whole thing.
All I can say is this movie was so awesome I could just faint.
I came all the way from Hollywood for this, and I'll say, this is what is really going to break the back of the camel out there. This is actually really going to hit.
It's like something that you've always thought and something that you always felt that's going on with our nation. But the My War documentary, Bradley and the ministry are willing to say it and step over that line and basically cross into people's worlds of saying what needs to be said and doing what needs to be done.
You've never seen anything like this before. There's nothing like this that I've ever seen or ever heard about.
It's very rare, but I can guarantee that you will never hear a message like this.
To be very honest with you, it is difficult to put into words. There is so much power in every single film.
This documentary shares that energy, brings that energy, and gets somebody to stand up off of their chair and say, that's it. I need to start moving, I need to start creating momentum, and I need to start doing. We're offensive, we're aggressive, and I believe that's what My War is. We're not losing any battles here. We never can lose a battle so long as Christ is on our side.
I think the kids are starving for the truth. This is what you've been waiting for. This is the thing that can spread the message of liberty and freedom and Christ to everybody with no holds barred. There's no hidden agenda here. The agenda's right out front. It's on the bumper of the car. This is what you got to see. I want to stand up and shout. I feel very much empowered.
Never before have you witnessed an event like this.
It says in the book of Acts, the apostles turned the world upside down, but really all they did is shifted it and put it right side up. I think what differentiates this and why you want to come hear Bradley speak is because he's not stopping with the success of a movie. He's not stopping with the success of having done over 330 public high schools. He's not stopping with the success of even having an arena where you folks would come to. The reason that I would say that you need to come to this is because there is no finish line in this. There's no redemptive quality that can be squelched on earth and say we've arrived. And that's what you're going to get through the message is, yeah, I can do this, and I need to be brought to action and stay in action and stay engaged. It's focusing on answers, it's focusing on resolve and on results. And even once we get our resolve and our results, it doesn't stop there, we can still do more. This ministry and its content's purpose is to light brush fires of freedom, as Samuel Adams said, in the hearts of men. Because a majority is not going to prevail unless you're tireless and irate. And a minority will easily prevail over a majority that is irate and tireless. And we're going to see another 1776 that's preceded by a Constitution of the United States that is a free people, a Christian governed people, and we're going to see that through this.
Are you ready to experience My War?
We want to touch our generation, and I believe that's what God is calling for.